So, after last night's clown show, it got me thinking, what can they do now? Where do they go from here? Tony Khan is now an on screen character. He's now a performer and much more than what he was before. Um, it used to be you just see him doing stupid little TV adverts and stupid little announcements. It meant nothing. But now he's been taken out. He's been absolutely taken out by the new elite. And where do we go from here? Well, I think they're going to capitalize on what something that WWE should have pulled the trigger, or, well, I think they're still pulling the trigger on it. And that's civil war between Tony Khan's faction and the elite. And I think that this is all going to culminate with Tony Khan hiring a group of soldiers. His group of soldiers are going to be the Blackpool Combat Club. Claudio, Wheeler Yuta, Bryan Danielson, and Moxley. And I think, and maybe not Yuta, but we'll get to that. But I think it's going to be those guys versus the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite in Blood and Guts. That's how this is going to get settled. I can't remember when they do Blood and Guts, but that's when it's going to get settled. I have a feeling. If it's sooner rather than later, then maybe, they could stretch this. They could stretch Blood and Guts out as long as they want to. They don't have, it's not like WWE where Survivor Series has to be War Games. And, they could move it around if they wanted to, but, Blood and Guts can be moved around. In fact, you could do a whole pay-per-view called Blood and Guts. They have nothing slated for July, which July is too soon to blow the angle off. But, anyway. I think instead of Wheeler Yuta, you're going to have Kenny Omega come back as a babyface. And he's going to be so white hot when he comes back. He's got to face his brothers. He's got to face the Elite who fired him in favor of his arch rival Okada. But, before we get to that, AEW is now setting precedents for itself. Or has set precedents for itself. They just aired the footage, 2 weeks ago, of CM Punk getting into an altercation with Jack and being fired because of this altercation. He got fired with cause, or for cause, it was. So, and he didn't even put his hands on Tony Khan. So yes, I know now it's a angle, Joe. It's an angle. This is an angle. Well, they've pulled real life into the angle, so you can't backtrack now. In storyline / real, you can make it as real as it needs to be, but in storyline, the Elite has to be fired. All 4 of them. They laid their hands on the boss. They went to a far more extreme than what CM Punk did. They actually attacked him. He fears for his life when fights break out in front of him. Imagine how he felt now that he's actually getting attacked. So here's what I think should happen. Either today, they need to post something on Twitter of Tony Khan laying in a hospital bed with a fucking neck brace on, and they've got him sedated. Okay? And they put a damn video out saying that effective immediately, the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, and Kazuchika Okada are suspended without pay for cause. Okay? Next Wednesday on Dynamite, you need to have Tony giving an interview with Tony Schiavone via satellite from his hospital bed. And Tony is going to sit there and he's going to get this mean look on his face. And he's going to be like, you know what? I had to let go of our biggest star that we ever had, our biggest draw that we ever had, because of these idiots. And I sided with them all along. And they do this to me. But guess what? Guess what, Elite? Guess what, Young Bucks? You're fired. You're fired with cause. And you go from there, you're fired. All of you. You're fired for cause. You're no longer EVPs of this company. You're no longer my friends. You're no longer tag team champions. I'm stripping you of the belts. You're no longer tag team champions. And you can go from there. You can just build it up and build it up and build it up. They can sneak into the building week after week, and they can attack people, attack the BCC. And then there's another way you could, but they're not going to do this. They're not going to do it. They're going to play this up as if the Young Bucks are now taking over and they're running the company. And then further on down the line, after they subject everybody to, bad deal after bad deal, after they run amok, the boys playing in the treehouse. And then Tony's going to show his face on TV. Everybody's going to cheer for him. Hey, Tony's back. And it's going to be so lame. Then he'll lay out the damn deal with he's hired his hired guns, his Blackpool Combat Club. He's hired the Blackpool Combat Club. Oh, and there's one other guy, because now at this point they've taken out Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta can't perform. He's injured. He's out. So I got another guy, a guy you know very, very well. And it's Kenny Omega. Or maybe they bring in Ibushi. Maybe Ibushi gets cleared to wrestle. And they bring in the Golden Lovers to face the Elite. You could build that up. But I still think it ought to be maybe two members of the Blackpool Combat Club plus the Golden Lovers versus those four guys. That's the way it should be. Hell, and in their absence, if you're going to fire these guys, which they have to fire him, if they do not fire, quote unquote, fire them, then it does nothing but pry sympathy over for CM Punk. It does nothing but help Punk's case. If they, at least in storyline, don't fire these guys. Because the precedent, quote unquote, has been set. The precedent has been set, as my GPS is telling me where to go here, guys. Sorry, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina today. Oh, man. But the precedent has been set. The Bucks have to be, quote unquote, fired. The Elite has to be, quote unquote, fired. Maybe send them to Japan for a while. Run amok over in Japan. Who knows what they're going to do here? I'm just giving you at least 2 or 3 different ways that they could get out of this, but you know what? They probably won't do any of them. They probably won't do what they should do and treat this like an old school wrestling angle. I want to see Tony Khan in a wheelchair. I want to see Tony Khan in a neck brace. But you know what they'll do? I guarantee you I know what they'll do. This was all Tony's plan all along, and he's going to turn heel because he's a fanboy, and he's going to join up with the Elite. And they'll do the typical Vince McMahon WWE way of getting out of this, which is to not get out of it at all, which is to treat it with no credibility at all, which is to treat it like it's a fucking joke. But anyway, folks, it's a clown show any way you look at it. They're not going to do the right thing. They're not going to do what they should do. Anyway, folks, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. What should they do going forward? And we'll see you down the road.